What's up, everyone? Tony from the Cold Case Project, back again. And today, what I want to run with you over is all content shared in these videos is readily available in any Google search. Now, with that said, I take this content, have it rewritten, and upon rewriting it, put it in these videos to spread the word on the thousands and thousands of cold cases of men and women throughout the United States that are just forgotten, and I give this platform to them so their cases and their stories can be told. Now, in addition to that, if you look down below in the description, you're going to see some brand new t-shirt and coffee cup designs I've actually gotten from couple of my subscribers who have over the years have been giving me some awesome fan art. So with that said, I'm offering a 20% discount code down below if you check that out, and splitting proceeds with them because they are awesome. Been watching me for quite some time, and I definitely think they deserve to be rewarded for some of the work they do on top of being full-time employees also. So, once again, if you have any recommendations or any suggestions, comment down below. Thank you so much for watching. Enjoy the video. Like, subscribe. I'm out. Peace.
The tragic and chilling case of the Signal Mountain murders, which took place on July 9, 1988, remains one of the most harrowing crimes in Tennessee history. The brutal killings of Airman First Class Kenneth Griffith, Sergeant Earl Smock, and Richard Mason shocked the small community of Signal Mountain near Chattanooga and left investigators grappling with a complex and gruesome crime scene. The case, which remained unsolved for nearly a decade, eventually led to the arrest and conviction of Frank Castile, a local landowner whose violent tendencies and obsession with trespassers culminated in the cold-blooded murders of the three men. This is the detailed account of the events, the investigation, and the eventual resolution of the case. On the evening of July 9, 1988, Kenneth Griffith, Earl Smock, and Richard Mason set out on their all-terrain vehicles to explore the trails around Signal Mountain. The three men were experienced riders and familiar with the rugged terrain of the Tennessee backwoods. Richard's wife, Martha Mason, recalled that they were eager to take advantage of the remaining daylight and left the Mason home around 6 o'clock p.m. When they failed to return by the next morning, their families grew concerned and began searching for them. The search took a grim turn when a local resident discovered 3 blood-stained ATVs in a trash dump at the bottom of a bluff on Roberts Camp Road, approximately 5 miles from the Mason home. Investigators quickly connected the ATVs to the missing men and launched a full-scale search of the area. A Signal Mountain resident reported hearing gunshots near an area known as the Gate the previous night, prompting investigators to focus their efforts there. At the Gate, a no-trespassing zone, investigators found disturbing evidence: ATV tire tracks, bloodstains, brain tissue, bone fragments, and drag marks leading to a pool of blood covered with leaves. A pocket knife belonging to Kenneth Griffith was also found nearby. Despite the gruesome discoveries, the bodies of the three men were not found at the scene. 2 days later, their remains were discovered at a dump site 11 miles away, near Suck Creek Road. Each man had been killed by shotgun blasts. The crime scene was scattered across a wide area, complicating the investigation. The murders were believed to have occurred at the Gate, 3 miles north of the Mason home. The ATVs were found several miles southeast on Roberts Mill Road, and the bodies were dumped 11 miles away near Suck Creek Road. Investigators reconstructed the crime as follows. 1. The confrontation. The three men were riding their ATVs on the dirt roads when they were confronted by the killer at the Gate. Kenneth Griffith was shot first in the left side of the head. Richard Mason was killed next with a single shotgun blast to the chest. Earl Smock was shot in the right shoulder and attempted to flee but was caught and shot through the heart. 2. Covering the crime. After the murders, the killer meticulously covered up the crime scene, disposing of evidence with the help of an accomplice. The ATVs were dumped at Roberts Mill Road, and the bodies were transported to Suck Creek Road. 3. Strategic disposal. Investigators believe the killer intentionally delayed the discovery of the bodies to prevent the crime scene at the gate from being found. If the bodies had been discovered earlier, the evidence at the gate might have been overlooked. From the outset, investigators believed the killer was a local resident with intimate knowledge of the area's back roads and ideal dumping sites. Eyewitnesses reported seeing two men in a pickup truck with 3 ATVs in the back on Roberts Mill Road the night of the disappearances. Another witness saw a woman frantically trying to stop traffic near the same location, claiming an accident had blocked the road. She was driving a light-colored Chevrolet. Frank Castile, a local landowner, quickly emerged as a suspect. He owned the property where the murders occurred and was known for his violent reactions to trespassers. Witnesses reported hearing gunshots from his property on the night of the murders, and a Jeep Scrambler matching Castile's vehicle was seen transporting ATVs and later washing blood from its back at a car wash. Despite these leads, the case went cold for nearly a decade. The investigation gained momentum in the mid-1990s, thanks to new fiber evidence and witnesses who came forward after the case was featured on television programs like Unsolved Mysteries. Key developments included 1. The Chevrolet driver. The woman seen trying to stop traffic on Roberts Mill Road came forward. She explained that her boyfriend's car had broken down, and she had not initially come forward because he had a criminal record and she feared he would be falsely implicated. 2. Marie Hill's testimony. Marie Hill, who was having an affair with Castile, revealed that she had received anonymous letters from Castile's wife implicating him in the murders. Castile later burned one of the letters, claiming it contained harmful information about him. 3. Witness accounts. Multiple witnesses testify that Castile had threatened them with a shotgun while they were on his property. Some reported that he had specifically mentioned his annoyance with ATV riders and even referenced Richard Mason by name. 4. Physical evidence. A burnt blue tarp found in Castile's fire pit matched a tarp witnesses had seen in his Jeep on the day of the murders. A shotgun seized from Castile was the same type used in the killings, though it could not be directly matched to the bullets. Frank Castile was arrested on April 15, 1997, and charged with 3 counts of first-degree murder. During his trial, 18 witnesses testified about their encounters with Castile, many of whom described being threatened with a shotgun while trespassing on his property. Castile's logbook, which documented trespassers' names, phone numbers, and license plates, was also presented as evidence. In May 1998, Castile was convicted and sentenced to life in prison. However, he was granted a new trial after it was determined that some evidence had been improperly admitted. He was convicted again in 2003 and remained in prison until his death on May 25, 2019, at the age of 71. The Signal Mountain murders left a lasting impact on the community, highlighting the dangers of vigilantism and the devastating consequences of unchecked violence. While Frank Castile's conviction brought an end to one chapter of this tragic story, the memory of the 3 men lives on, and their deaths continue to resonate with those who knew them and the community they called home. The disappearance and presumed murder of Mickey Wright on April 17, 2001. Wright, a dedicated employee of the Shelby County Office of Construction Code Enforcement in Memphis, Tennessee, vanished under mysterious circumstances while performing his duties. Despite the arrest and conviction of Dale V. Marty's for Wright's murder, many questions remain unanswered, and Wright's remains have never been recovered. Mickey Wright was last seen on April 17, 2001, at his place of employment in the vicinity of the 2500 block of Lamar Avenue in Memphis. He was issuing a citation at a car lot as part of his duties as a code enforcement officer. Wright was known to be a diligent and mild-mannered employee, dedicated to his work and his family. After completing his tasks, he was supposed to return to his office to turn in his company log and his company truck, a Ford Ranger extended cab pickup with a license plate number GT4191. However, Wright never returned. 2 days after Wright's disappearance, on April 19, 2001, A jogger found Wright's Code Enforcement Identification Badge and other personal items in a creek in Olive Branch, Mississippi. This discovery raised immediate concerns about foul play. On April 27th, Wright's company truck was found in a rural wheat field in Marshall County, Mississippi. The truck had been set on fire and was completely destroyed. Wright's personal identification and wallet were found in a nearby ditch, but there was no sign of him. An extensive search of the area yielded no further clues about his whereabouts. Authorities quickly focused their investigation on a male individual seen in Olive Branch, Mississippi, sitting inside what appeared to be Wright's company truck. A witness described the man as Caucasian, in his mid-40s, with salt and pepper hair parted in the middle, wrinkles around his eyes, a large build, and a tan complexion. He was wearing a light blue, short-sleeved, button-down shirt and khaki pants. The witness also noted a large bundle of blankets or sheets in the truck, consistent with the size and proportions of a wrapped-up body. The truck was parked in a lot for about 45 minutes before it was driven away. In 2004, police received a tip that led them to Dale V. Marty's, a property owner in Memphis who had several run-ins with Wright in the past. Marty's owned commercial properties that Wright had cited for code violations, and the two had a contentious relationship. After searching Marty's home and questioning him, authorities arrested him for Wright's murder. Marty's had visible injuries, including black eyes and broken ribs, which he never explained. 3 witnesses testified that Marty's had confessed to killing Wright in self-defense during an argument, claiming that Wright had reached for his gun. Marty's eventually admitted to killing Wright, but maintained that it was in self-defense. In April 2007, just days before his trial was set to begin, Marty's accepted a plea deal. He pleaded no contest to second-degree murder and was sentenced to 15 years in prison. As part of the plea agreement, Marty's was required to reveal what he had done with Wright's body. He claimed that he had disposed of Wright's remains, put them in a 55-gallon drum, and disposed of the remains in junked automobiles that were later crushed. Wright's family was deeply dissatisfied with the plea deal, believing the sentence was too lenient. They protested the decision, but the deal was finalized. In 2011, federal authorities took over the case, prosecuting Marty's for Wright's murder as a civil rights violation. Marty's pleaded no contest and was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. During the federal proceedings, it was revealed that Marty's was also responsible for the 1998 murder of his friend Henry Ackerman. Marty's confessed to beating Ackerman to death and disposing of his body in the same manner as Wright's. He pleaded guilty to this murder and received an additional life sentence. Mickey Wright was a devoted family man and a hardworking employee who took pride in his job. His sudden and violent disappearance shocked his family, friends, and colleagues. Despite the conviction of Dale V. Marty's, Wright's remains have never been found. If you have any information about Mickey Wright's case, please contact the appropriate authorities. The disappearance of Tabitha Tutors remains one of the most haunting and perplexing missing persons cases in recent history. On the morning of April 29, 2003, the 13-year-old girl vanished without a trace while walking to her school bus stop in Nashville, Tennessee. Despite extensive investigations, numerous leads, and the unwavering efforts of her family and law enforcement, Tabitha's fate remains unknown. Her case has left a community in despair and raised troubling questions about the vulnerabilities of children and the challenges of solving such mysteries. Tabitha Tutors was last seen by her family at approximately 7 a.m. on April 29, 2003. Her father, Bo Tutors, woke her up in their home on Lillian Street in Nashville. Tabitha, a 7th grader at Bailey Middle School, was described as a responsible and cheerful child. She was a straight-A student with a perfect attendance record, active in her church choir, and had no history of running away or behavioral issues. That morning, she was supposed to board the school bus at 8 a.m. At the corner of 14th and Boscobel Streets, a route she had taken countless times before. Witnesses reported seeing Tabitha walking toward the bus stop, reading some papers as she went. She did not appear to be in a hurry or looking for anyone. However, Tabitha never boarded the bus and never arrived at school. When she failed to return home that afternoon, her parents grew increasingly worried. By 5 p.m., they contacted the school and discovered she had been absent all day. Shortly before 6 p.m., they reported her missing to the police. Authorities initially treated Tabitha's disappearance as a potential runaway case, given her age. However, her family insisted that she would never have left home voluntarily. Tabitha was excited about an upcoming trip to Six Flags in Louisville, Kentucky, and had left behind all her belongings, including her clothes, makeup, and $20 in cash she had recently won at church. As the hours turned into days, the investigation shifted focus to the possibility of abduction. A key witness emerged. A neighborhood boy claimed he saw Tabitha get into a red car with a man on the morning of her disappearance. He described the driver as an African-American man, aged 30 to 40, wearing a baseball cap. According to the boy, the car reversed course and drove away after Tabitha entered it. While some investigators doubted the credibility of the young witness, tracker dogs traced Tabitha's scent along a route consistent with his account. The dogs eventually lost her scent in an alley, a place her friends said she would never have gone alone. The investigation led to several potential suspects, but none were conclusively linked to Tabitha's disappearance. One person of interest was Tabitha's sister Jamie's former boyfriend, who matched the description of the driver and owned a red car. He also knew Tabitha's bus route and schedule. However, police were unable to connect him to the case definitively. Another lead involved a man arrested 4 months after Tabitha's disappearance for attempting to lure an 11-year-old girl into his car. The incident occurred just a few blocks from Tabitha's home, but no evidence linked him to her case. Similarly, a trucker and a hotel clerk in Linton, Indiana, reported a possible sighting of Tabitha in October 2003, but these leads were never confirmed. In Tabitha's bedroom, investigators found a piece of paper with the initials TDT and MTL. The meaning of these initials remains unclear, though they were linked to an 18-year-old family friend who was quickly ruled out as a suspect. A business card with Tabitha's name and the words "Call Me" and "Sexy Girl" was also found, but it was determined to be unrelated to her disappearance. Tabitha's disappearance deeply affected her community. Volunteers formed Team Tabitha to assist in the search, distributing flyers and combing through neighborhoods, alleys, and parks. Despite their efforts, no significant clues were found. The lack of an Amber Alert in the early stages of the investigation drew criticism, as many believed it delayed the search for Tabitha. Police defended their decision, stating that there was no evidence of an abduction at the time. Tabitha's family faced immense emotional strain. Her sister Jamie underwent multiple polygraph tests, some of which she failed, leading to increased scrutiny from investigators. Jamie maintained her innocence, attributing the failed tests to the stress of the situation. The family's frustration with law enforcement grew as the case stagnated, with few updates or breakthroughs. In August 2003, another young girl, Heaven Ross, disappeared under similar circumstances in Northport, Alabama. Like Tabitha, Ross was on her way to school when she vanished. Her remains were found 3 years later, but her murder remains unsolved. Authorities considered a possible connection between the two cases due to the similarities, but no evidence has been found to link them. As of 2025, Tabitha's case remains unsolved. The FBI has doubled the reward for information leading to her recovery to $50,000. An age-progressed image of Tabitha has been released, and her family continues to hope for answers. Tabitha's room remains unchanged since 2003. The Tutors family has endured years of uncertainty and heartbreak. They have faced false leads, public scrutiny, and the painful reality that their daughter's disappearance may never be solved. If you have any information, no matter how small, please contact the authorities. Every tip could be the one that brings Tabitha home. Alice Mae Sullivan was a sophomore business major at Tennessee State University in Nashville, Tennessee, in 1986. She had recently moved from Gallatin, Tennessee, with her 3-year-old son and lived with her boyfriend at Town Terrace Apartments. She was determined to build a better future for herself and her child, balancing her responsibilities as a student, mother, and employee. Despite her demanding schedule, Sullivan maintained good grades and worked hard to pay her way through college with a job at Burger King. On the morning of August 28, 1986, Sullivan followed her usual routine. She dropped her son off at preschool, attended her 8 a.m. class at Tennessee State University, and later stopped by Hankel Hall to visit a friend. The two chatted for a while before Sullivan's friend left for her own class, leaving Sullivan alone in the dorm room. This was the last confirmed sighting of Sullivan. She had a scheduled class from 1 p.m. to 2:30 p.m., but she never showed up. Concern grew quickly when Sullivan failed to pick up her son from preschool that afternoon. Her boyfriend contacted her parents, who immediately drove to Nashville to search for their daughter. Despite their frantic efforts, they found no sign of her. When they reported her missing to the police, they were met with skepticism. Authorities initially suggested that Sullivan may have chosen to leave voluntarily, dismissing the family's concerns. This assumption delayed the investigation and allowed critical time to slip away. In a further misstep, the police permitted Sullivan's parents to stay at her apartment while waiting for her return. The decision to allow them access to the space without any forensic analysis or preservation of potential evidence contaminated what might have been a vital crime scene. This lapse hindered any subsequent investigation. Suspicion quickly fell on two individuals in Sullivan's life: her boyfriend and a maintenance worker at Town Terrace Apartments. The maintenance man, known to be a friend of Sullivan, had a troubling history. Years after Sullivan's disappearance, he was convicted of rape and murder. His proximity to the case and his criminal behavior made him a significant person of interest. However, investigators lacked sufficient evidence to formally charge him in relation to Sullivan's case. Sullivan's boyfriend also came under scrutiny. He was the last known person to have had regular contact with her, and his actions in the wake of her disappearance raised questions. However, like the maintenance man, no concrete evidence tied him to her disappearance. Adding to the heartbreak, Sullivan's family later learned that she had been contemplating a return to Gallatin. She had expressed her desire to move back home with her son, a decision that may have upset those close to her. Investigators considered whether this decision could have been a motive for foul play. Still, without direct evidence, the theory remains speculative. Over the years, Sullivan's family has endured immense pain and frustration. They believe the mishandling of her case and the initial dismissal by authorities contributed to the lack of progress. Sullivan's parents held on to hope, repeatedly urging anyone with information to come forward. Despite numerous efforts, no definitive leads have emerged. The possibility that Sullivan was harmed in broad daylight remains unsettling. Tennessee State University's Gentry Center, where she was last seen, was a public space. Given the absence of modern surveillance technology at the time, investigators faced significant challenges in reconstructing her movements. Anyone with information about Sullivan's disappearance is urged to contact the Metro Nashville Police Department at 615-862-7557 or Crime Stoppers at 615-742-7463. Roxanne Woodson and Kathy Clower's lives were tragically cut short in a series of violent acts committed by Joe Shepard, a man whose crimes shook the small communities of Tellico Plains and Englewood, Tennessee. Their stories are marked by heartbreak, resilience, and the pursuit of justice. 16-year-old Roxanne Woodson had recently moved to Tellico Plains from Indiana, seeking a fresh start. A single mother, she was described as a caring and determined young woman who was trying to build a better future for herself and her child. Despite the challenges she faced, Roxanne had a supportive family, particularly her father, John Woodson, who remained a steadfast presence in her life. On the evening of February 27, 1978, Roxanne accompanied her boyfriend, Frankie Harris, to a gathering at the home of his cousins, Charles, and Wilbur Bovard in nearby Arden, Tennessee. The atmosphere was lighthearted, and the group spent the evening chatting and enjoying each other's company. At some point, Joe Shepard, a 26-year-old known for his violent tendencies and criminal background, arrived. Shepard suggested a drive around the area, and the group agreed. After a short stop to pick up Wilbur's girlfriend, the group continued their drive. Eventually, Joe veered off the main road and onto Old Furnace Road, near the Cherokee National Forest. It was here that the mood shifted. Shepard, fueled by anger and rejection, made sexual advances toward Roxanne. When she resisted, he became aggressive. Despite her pleas, he attacked her. In a desperate attempt to escape, Roxanne fled into the forest. Shepard pursued her while Frankie and Charles watched in shock. Moments passed, and Shepard returned alone, claiming that he had lost sight of Roxanne. The men made a cursory search for her, but eventually left without contacting authorities. John Woodson, increasingly worried when his daughter failed to return home, reported Roxanne missing the following day. Police initially suspected that she may have run away, but John and other family members were adamant that Roxanne would never voluntarily abandon her responsibilities. The community rallied together in a frantic search, combing through the dense forest in hopes of finding her. Days passed without any sign of Roxanne, and suspicions began to mount against Joe Shepard. Police questioned him multiple times, but he denied any involvement in her disappearance. Then, 2 months later, a discovery brought the investigation to a grim conclusion. On April 8, 1978, Shepard's mother, Velma, noticed her dogs digging in a mound of dirt behind their home. When she investigated, she was horrified to find human remains. Authorities arrived, and the decomposed body of Roxanne Woodson was unearthed from the shallow grave. Her body was partially clothed, and her pants had been wrapped around her head. Dental records confirmed her identity. The condition of her remains indicated a violent death, and foul play was immediately suspected. Joe Shepard was arrested and charged with first-degree murder. Despite overwhelming evidence, including inconsistencies in his statements and his failure to report Roxanne's disappearance, Shepard maintained his innocence. As authorities built their case, another haunting mystery resurfaced: the disappearance of 15-year-old Kathy Clowers. 2 years earlier, in March 1976, Kathy Clowers vanished from her home in Englewood, Tennessee. Described as a kind-hearted and innocent girl with a developmental delay, Kathy was deeply loved by her family and friends. Her disappearance left the small town shaken. Investigators soon uncovered a connection between Shepard and Kathy. On the night she went missing, Shepard had been seen with Kathy and another teenage boy, Billy Gentry. According to Gentry's testimony, the trio spent the evening driving around, drinking alcohol, and using drugs. Shepard, already known for his violent behavior, made Kathy uneasy. At some point during the night, Gentry reported that Shepard became aggressive. Kathy attempted to distance herself, but Shepard refused to let her go. He forced her into his car and drove away. That was the last time anyone saw Kathy alive. When questioned, Shepard provided conflicting accounts of what had happened. He initially claimed Kathy had willingly left with a group of boys and traveled to Florida, but investigators found no evidence supporting his claims. Suspicion grew, and Kathy's family endured years of unanswered questions. It wasn't until Shepard's arrest for Roxanne's murder that investigators reopened Kathy's case. Under pressure, Shepard eventually led authorities to a remote site in the Cherokee National Forest, where they discovered Kathy's remains buried in a shallow grave. Much like Roxanne, Kathy's body was partially clothed, with her pants wrapped around her head. Joe Shepard faced trial for the murders of both Roxanne and Kathy. The prosecution presented a damning case, highlighting Shepard's history of violent behavior, his attempts to cover up his crimes, and the horrifying similarities between the murders. Witness testimonies, forensic evidence, and Shepard's own contradictory statements sealed his fate. In November 1990, Shepard was convicted of second-degree murder for Kathy's death and sentenced to 99 years in prison. Months later, in April 1991, he was tried for Roxanne's murder. This time, the jury found him guilty of first-degree felony murder, and he was sentenced to death. However, the legal battle was far from over. Shepard appealed his conviction, and in 1995, the Tennessee Supreme Court reduced his sentence to life in prison. Despite his repeated claims of innocence, the evidence against him remained indisputable. On August 28, 2010, Joe Shepard died of natural causes while serving his sentence at the Northeast Correctional Complex. Though his life came to an end, the memories of Roxanne and Kathy live on. Their families continue to honor their legacies, remembering them as vibrant young girls whose lives were tragically stolen. Through the tireless efforts of law enforcement, prosecutors, and loved ones, the truth was brought to light, ensuring that Shepard's horrific acts would not be forgotten. The disappearance of Summer Wells on June 15, 2021, remains one of the most baffling and heart-wrenching missing persons cases in recent memory. The 5-year-old girl vanished from her family's home in the rural Beach Creek area of Rogersville, Tennessee, under circumstances that have left investigators, her family, and the public searching for answers. Despite extensive searches, media coverage, and ongoing investigations, Summer's whereabouts remain unknown, and her case continues to haunt those who have followed it. Summer Wells was last seen at her home on Ben Hill Road between 5:30 and 6:30 p.m. on June 15, 2021. According to her family, she had been helping her mother, Candace Bly, and grandmother plant flowers earlier in the day. At some point, Summer went inside the house to play in the basement, a common activity for her. Her older brothers, aged between 7 and 12, were reportedly upstairs at the time. When her parents called for her and received no response, they went downstairs to check on her and found her missing. The family immediately began searching the property and surrounding area, but found no trace of her. Authorities were called, and an extensive search was launched involving local law enforcement, the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, and the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Search dogs were brought in and reportedly tracked Summers scent through the woods at the end of Ben Hill Road, but the trail eventually went cold. Despite days of searching by ground and air, no sign of Summer was found. 11 days after her disappearance, authorities asked the public for information about a red or maroon 1998 to 2000 Toyota Tacoma pickup truck that had been seen in the area on June 14th and 15th. The truck had a full bed ladder rack and white buckets in the bed. While the driver of the truck was not considered a suspect, investigators wanted to speak with them to determine if they had seen anything unusual. To date, the truck and its driver have not been identified. Summer's family quickly came under scrutiny as investigators delved into their backgrounds and the circumstances surrounding her disappearance. Summer's parents, Donald Wells and Candace Bly, had a history of domestic violence, with Donald having been arrested multiple times for domestic assault. Both parents, however, stated they had passed polygraph tests regarding Summer's disappearance. Donald claimed he was at work at the time Summer went missing, while Candace and her mother were at home. About a month after Summer's disappearance, her 3 older brothers were removed from the family home by the Tennessee Department of Children's Services. The reasons for their removal were not fully disclosed, but it was reportedly due to concerns about their safety and well-being. The boys were questioned by authorities, but no significant information emerged from their interviews. Donald Wells has consistently maintained that Summer was abducted by someone outside the family. He pointed to the rural nature of their property and the difficulty of accessing their home as evidence that an outsider would have needed a specific reason to be in the area. However, investigators have not publicly confirmed any evidence of an abduction, and the case remains open with no named suspects. Summer's aunt, Rose Bly, disappeared from Wisconsin in 2009 and has never been found. While the two cases are not believed to be connected, the coincidence has added another layer of complexity and speculation to Summer's disappearance. The investigation into Summer's disappearance has been fraught with challenges. The remote location of the Wells home made it difficult to gather evidence or identify potential witnesses. Additionally, the The family's troubled history and the removal of Summer's brothers from the home fueled public speculation and media scrutiny. Online harassment and accusations directed at the Wells family further complicated the situation, with Donald and Candace claiming that their lives have been upended by the constant attention and criticism. The case of Summer Wells has captivated the nation, with extensive media coverage and public interest. Vigils, searches, and social media campaigns have kept Summer's story in the spotlight, but the lack of concrete leads has frustrated many. In June 2023, the TBI released an age progression photo of Summer, showing what she might look like at 7 years old. The release of the photo was part of an effort to generate new tips and keep the case active, but so far, it has not led to any breakthroughs. Summer Wells would be 8 years old. Her family continues to hold out hope that she will be found alive, though the passage of time has made that possibility increasingly unlikely. The Hawkins County Sheriff's Office and the TBI have stated that the investigation remains active, and they are committed to finding answers. Donald and Candace Wells have faced immense personal and legal challenges since Summer's disappearance. They have moved out of Tennessee and are living in a motel in Arkansas, where Donald has found work. The couple has expressed frustration with the lack of progress in the case and the ongoing harassment they face from the public. Despite these challenges, they remain determined to keep Summer's story alive and continue to seek justice for their daughter. If you have any information about Summer Wells' disappearance, no matter how small, please contact the Hawkins County Sheriff's Office or the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation. Every tip could be the key to solving this heartbreaking mystery. The disappearance of Charlie Toiver on February 4, 2000, remains a deeply unsettling and unresolved mystery. Last seen in Oak Ridge, Tennessee, Charlie vanished under circumstances that have left his family and investigators grappling with unanswered questions and conflicting accounts. Despite the passage of more than 2 decades, his case continues to haunt those who knew him, and his family remains determined to uncover the truth about what happened to him. Charles Toiver, known as Charlie, was a 30-year-old man with a distinctive appearance: red hair, blue eyes, and several tattoos, including a dragon on his ankle and another on his shoulder. He had a history of legal troubles, having spent time in prison for theft, and at the time of his disappearance, he was living on a modest monthly disability check of $512. Charlie was also openly gay, a fact that his family believes may have influenced the way law enforcement handled his case. Charlie lived a transient lifestyle, often moving between locations and staying with friends. Prior to his disappearance, he shared a home with Ernie Lee Tony LaHellier in Knoxville, Tennessee. The two men had purchased 3 houses on Glenwood Avenue. One they lived in together and 2 others across the street. Their plan was to renovate and sell the properties for a profit, but the project never came to fruition. Eventually, LaHellier moved out of the shared house and into one of the properties across the street, transferring his interest in the original house to Charlie. Charlie then sold the house to Edward J. McKimsey for $45,000 and moved in with McKimsey in Clinton, Tennessee in late 1999. On February 4, 2000, Charlie was last seen in Oak Ridge, Tennessee. According to McKimsey, Charlie left that day to visit friends in Atlanta, Georgia. McKimsey claimed he dropped Charlie off at the first rest area on Interstate 75 at the Tennessee-Georgia border, where Charlie's friends were supposed to pick him up. McKimsey stated that Charlie was carrying $200 in cash. However, Charlie never arrived in Atlanta, and his family never heard from him again. 2 days later, on February 6th, Charlie's parents went to McKimsey's residence in Clinton after LaHellier informed them that Charlie had been involved in a violent argument with McKimsey. LaHellier claimed the altercation had left holes in the walls and bloodstains. However, when Charlie's parents arrived, they found no evidence of a fight, no holes, no blood, and no signs of struggle. Charlie's belongings, including his clothes, were still at the house, but he and his dog were gone. The circumstances surrounding Charlie's disappearance are riddled with inconsistencies and red flags. McKimsey's account of dropping Charlie off at a rest area was never corroborated, and there was no evidence that Charlie had actually traveled to Atlanta. Additionally, about a month after Charlie was reported missing, LaHellier brought Charlie's mail to his parents. Some of the letters were addressed to Charlie at LaHellier's home address, while others bore address forwarding labels to towns where Charlie had allegedly never lived. Notably, 2 of the towns listed on the labels were places where LaHellier had previously lived, raising suspicions about his involvement in Charlie's disappearance. LaHellier's criminal history further deepened the mystery. After Charlie's disappearance, LaHellier was convicted of burglary and statutory sodomy in Missouri, involving a teenage girl. He was required to register as a sex offender upon his release, but failed to do so, and his current whereabouts are unknown. McKimsey, meanwhile, still lives in Tennessee, but his role in Charlie's disappearance remains unclear. Charlie's family has long accused law enforcement of failing to properly investigate his disappearance. They believe that Charlie's criminal record and homosexuality may have led to bias and a lack of urgency in the case. Despite their efforts to push for answers, the investigation has yielded few leads, and the case remains unsolved. Charlie's mother, Constance Toiver, has been particularly vocal in her quest for justice. She maintains a Facebook page dedicated to her son and stays in contact with a national missing and unidentified persons system in hopes of finding new information. For Constance, the not knowing is the hardest part. She clings to the hope that Charlie is still alive, living somewhere under the radar, but she also fears the worst. One of the most troubling aspects of the case is the burning of a trailer just months after Charlie's disappearance. The trailer was located in an area connected to the investigation, and its destruction raised significant red flags. Detectives were unable to determine whether the fire was related to Charlie's case, but the timing and circumstances have led many to suspect foul play. Charlie Toiver would be 55 years old. His family continues to hold out hope that one day they will learn the truth about what happened to him. The Anderson County Sheriff's Department and the FBI have been involved in the case, but no breakthroughs have been made. In recent years, the FBI has increased the reward for information leading to Charlie's recovery, but so far, no credible tips have emerged. If you have any information about Charlie's disappearance, no matter how small, please contact the Anderson County Sheriff's Department or the FBI. Jennifer Wyatt was last seen at her residence at Tanglewood Apartments, now known as Whispering Oaks, located in the 200 block of Tanglewood Court in Nashville, Tennessee, on June 28, 1980. Earlier that day, she attended a pool party with her softball team. After leaving the gathering alone, she returned to her apartment. However, Jennifer vanished without a trace, and she has not been heard from since. When concerned friends and family could not reach her, they contacted authorities. Upon investigation, police found Jennifer's apartment undisturbed. Nothing appeared out of place, suggesting no immediate signs of forced entry or a struggle inside. Her car was parked in its usual spot within the complex's lot, further deepening the mystery surrounding her disappearance. Disturbingly, neighbors came forward with alarming accounts. They reported hearing a woman's screams and, upon peering out their windows, saw 3 to 4 individuals forcing a woman into a dark-colored 4-door sedan. Witnesses described the terrifying scene as the car sped away. Shockingly, the apartment complex's security guard was informed of the incident, but he failed to report it to law enforcement at the time. Authorities now believe that the woman the witnesses saw was likely Jennifer, being abducted against her will. Months passed with no significant developments. Then, on December 11, 1980, nearly 6 months after Jennifer's disappearance, a grim discovery was made. Her Tennessee driver's license was found discarded on Blue Lake Road, which has since been renamed Blue Lake Lane in Rutherford County, Tennessee. This location is approximately 15.5 miles east of her apartment and 3 miles northeast of Laverne, Tennessee, near the expansive Pier C Priest Lake. At the time, the surrounding area was largely undeveloped, with ongoing construction for a new housing complex. Police immediately launched a search operation, deploying dogs to comb through the nearby woods. Despite their efforts, no further trace of Jennifer was found. The discovery of her identification heightened fears that she had met with foul play. Jennifer's family and friends remember her as a responsible and ambitious young woman. Her life appeared to be on an upward trajectory. She was working diligently at Colonial Bakery while attending night school to further her education. Her loved ones described her pride in her newly purchased car, a vehicle she maintained meticulously. Jennifer had no known reason to voluntarily disappear, and investigators strongly suspect she was the victim of a violent crime. The disappearance of Jennifer Wix and her 2-year-old daughter, Adriana Wix, on March 25, 2004, remains one of the most haunting and perplexing missing persons cases in Tennessee history. Jennifer, a devoted mother and beloved family member, vanished under suspicious circumstances along with her young daughter, leaving behind a trail of unanswered questions and a family desperate for answers. Despite extensive investigations, media coverage, and the relentless efforts of their loved ones, Jennifer and Adriana's whereabouts remain unknown. This is the detailed account of their disappearance, the investigation, and the ongoing fight for justice. Jennifer K. Wix was born on August 16, 1982, in Springfield, Tennessee, to parents Kathy and Michael Wix. Jennifer was the eldest of 6 sisters and was known for her kind, nurturing nature and strong sense of family. She was a driven and independent young woman who had a passion for horses and riding. Jennifer's family described her as a Spitfire who was fiercely protective of those she loved. She was also a devoted mother to her daughter, Adriana Nicole Wix, who was born on January 14, 2002. Adriana was a bright, joyful child with sparkling blue eyes, and she was the center of Jennifer's world. Jennifer's life took a challenging turn when she became a single mother at a young age, but she embraced her role with determination and love. She relied on the support of her family, particularly her mother, Kathy, and her sisters, who helped care for Adriana while Jennifer worked late shifts. Jennifer's dream was to provide a stable and loving environment for her daughter, and she was determined to make that a reality. In the summer of 2003, Jennifer began dating Joseph Joey Benton Jr., a man she met through her cousin Jeffrey. Joey lived with his parents, Joseph Benton Sr. and Cindy Benton, on their property in Cross Plains, Tennessee. The Benton family owned a large piece of land, and Joey resided in a makeshift structure known as the Party Barn, where he and his friends often gathered to drink and use drugs. From the outset, Jennifer's relationship with Joey was tumultuous. Joey had a volatile temper, and Jennifer confided in her mother that she and Adriana were often surrounded by weapons and drugs in the Benton home. Despite the red flags, Jennifer loved Joey and hoped to build a future with him. She even planned to marry him and have more children. However, the relationship was marked by instability, and Jennifer frequently moved between the Benton property and her family's homes. In March 2004, tensions between Jennifer and the Benton family reached a breaking point. Jennifer had recently taken Adriana to the emergency room after the toddler experienced severe pain while urinating. Adriana was diagnosed with a condition that can be caused by various factors, including prolonged exposure to wet diapers or, in some cases, abuse. Jennifer was deeply concerned about Adriana's well-being and suspected that someone in the Benton household might be harming her daughter. On March 24th, Jennifer called her mother, Kathy, and revealed that Joey's parents had been verbally abusive toward her. Cindy Benton had thrown Jennifer and Adriana's food onto the ground, telling them to eat like the dogs. Jennifer also reported that Joey's father, Joseph Benton Sr., had become unusually aggressive. Despite these alarming developments, Jennifer assured her mother that she could handle the situation. The following day, March 25th, Jennifer made 2 phone calls that would be her last known communications. In the morning, she called her father, Michael, and expressed fear about Joey's mother, Cindy. Later that afternoon, Jennifer spoke with her aunt, Lisa, and shared her plans to move out of the Benton home. She told Lisa that she would leave a spare key at her house in case she needed a safe place to stay. Jennifer never arrived at Lisa's home, and she and Adriana were never seen or heard from again. On the evening of March 25, 2004, Jennifer and Adriana vanished without a trace. Joey Benton provided multiple conflicting accounts of their disappearance. Initially, he claimed that Jennifer and Adriana had left with an unknown individual. He later changed his story, stating that he had dropped them off at an Exxon gas station near Exit 112 off Interstate 65 in Cross Plains, Tennessee. According to Joey, Jennifer and Adriana got into a white four-door car and drove away. He also claimed that Jennifer returned to the Benton home the next day to collect her belongings, but this account could not be verified. Jennifer's family immediately suspected foul play. They knew that Jennifer would never willingly leave without her daughter's beloved stuffed Elmo, known as Melmo, or Adriana's winter coat, both of which were found in trash bags that Joey later dropped off at Kathy's house. The family also noted that Jennifer had been expecting a $500 tax refund, which she never collected. These details, along with Joey's inconsistent statements, raised serious concerns about his involvement in their disappearance. The Robertson County Sheriff's Office initially treated Jennifer and Adriana's disappearance as a missing persons case. However, the investigation was plagued by inconsistencies and a lack of thoroughness. Joey Benton and his family were uncooperative, and law enforcement failed to execute a comprehensive search of the Benton property. Despite multiple searches over the years, no evidence of Jennifer or Adriana has been found. In 2013, the case was reclassified as a homicide, but no arrests have been made. The Tennessee Bureau of Investigation has been involved in the case, but progress has been slow. Jennifer's family has tirelessly advocated for justice, organizing vigils, community events, and media campaigns to keep their story in the public eye. In March 2024, on the 20th anniversary of Jennifer and Adriana's disappearance, authorities executed a search warrant on the Benton property. During the search, they discovered a 20-year-old image of a child engaging in something I can't describe for sake of monetization, along with explosives and weapons. Joseph Benton Sr. was arrested and charged with unlawful possession of weapons, explosives, and inappropriate exploitation of a minor. While these charges are unrelated to Jennifer and Adriana's disappearance, their family hopes that this development will lead to a breakthrough in the case. In July 2024, Joey Benton met with Jennifer's mother, Kathy, and her sister, Casey, and admitted that the story he had told for 20 years was a lie. He claimed that Jennifer and Adriana were already dead when he returned home on March 25, 2004. While this confession provided some clarity, Jennifer's family remains skeptical and continues to push for answers. Jennifer and Adriana's family has never given up hope of finding them and holding those responsible accountable. They have faced numerous challenges, including a lack of cooperation from law enforcement and the Benton family, but their determination has never wavered. Through vigils, community events, and social media campaigns, they have kept Jennifer and Adriana's memory alive and ensured that their story is not forgotten. The Wix family's resilience and unwavering commitment to justice serve as a powerful reminder of the importance of never giving up on the search for truth. As the investigation continues, they remain hopeful that one day they will find the answers they so desperately seek and bring Jennifer and Adriana home. Despite the passage of time, their loved ones continue to fight for justice, determined to uncover the truth about what happened to Jennifer and Adriana. If you have any information about this case, no matter how small, please contact the Robertson County Sheriff's Office or the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation. Nancy Willis was last seen by her family in Gates City, Virginia, during the Christmas holidays of 1986. After spending time with her loved ones, she was supposed to return to her home in Ringgold, Georgia. However, she never contacted her family again, which was deeply uncharacteristic of her. The sudden silence raised concerns, but it would be years before her disappearance was seriously examined. According to Nancy's husband, Howard Hawk Willis. The last time he saw her was when she told him she was leaving him. He claimed that he had driven her to a bus station in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and that she had intended to start a new life elsewhere. This account was the only version of events available, as Nancy's whereabouts remained unknown. What stood out to investigators, however, was that the Willises had been in the process of building a new home in Bradley County, Tennessee. Nancy disappeared before the couple could move in, casting doubt on Howard's claims. Years passed without any concrete leads. Nancy's family held out hope, but no sign of her emerged. Despite her husband's story, authorities found it suspicious that Nancy had not accessed her bank accounts or contacted her loved ones since her alleged departure. The lack of evidence made it difficult to determine what had happened, and for a long time, Nancy's case went cold. In a shocking twist, Howard Hawk Willis was arrested in October 2002 for the brutal murders of a young couple, 17-year-old Adam Ray Crismer and 16-year-old Samantha Lemon Crismer. The Crismers, newly married, were from Chickamauga, Georgia. They had been temporarily staying with Howard's mother on Brentwood Drive in Johnson City, Tennessee. The couple knew Howard personally and had even participated in a double wedding ceremony alongside Howard's daughter and her husband. The gruesome details of the Crismers' deaths unraveled in the days following Howard's arrest. Samantha's body and parts of Adam's remains were discovered in a rented storage unit in Johnson City. Even more disturbingly, Adam's head and hands were found discarded in Boone Lake, a chilling attempt to hinder identification. The connection between Howard and the Crismers was undeniable, but the motive behind the killings remained murky. Investigators speculated that financial motives, combined with Howard's manipulative nature, played a role in the murders. Howard, who was known for his criminal tendencies, had previously been involved in drug trafficking and other illicit activities. Detectives quickly began to piece together the likelihood that Howard had used the Crismers for financial gain, possibly coercing them into criminal schemes before killing them to cover his tracks. The investigation took an even darker turn when Howard's stepfather, Sam Thomas, mysteriously vanished in September 2002. Just a month later, Sam's body was found in Georgia, decapitated and missing his hands, a grim similarity to Adam Crismer's fate. While no charges have been formally filed against Howard in connection with Sam's death, authorities strongly suspect a connection between the cases. As Howard faced trial for the Crismers' murders, investigators revisited Nancy Willis's disappearance. Though Howard had never been officially charged in his wife's case, suspicions mounted. The timing of Nancy's disappearance, the lack of any evidence supporting Howard's claim that she left voluntarily, and his involvement in multiple violent crimes all pointed toward foul play. The trial for the Crismers' murders did not commence until 2010, 8 years after Howard's arrest. The delay was attributed to legal maneuvers and Howard's own efforts to manipulate the judicial system. Representing himself for a portion of the proceedings, he displayed an unsettling lack of remorse. His calculated demeanor in court further reinforced the belief that he was a dangerous, remorseless killer. Despite his attempts to evade justice, Howard was convicted of the Crismers' murders. The jury sentenced him to death, bringing some semblance of closure to the victims' families. However, Nancy's fate remained an unresolved mystery. Over the years, investigators have continued to pursue leads in Nancy's case. Searches of Howard's properties, interviews with former acquaintances, and forensic examinations have all failed to produce conclusive evidence of her whereabouts. Nevertheless, authorities maintain their belief that Howard was responsible for her disappearance. The parallels between Nancy's case and the Crismers' murders are difficult to ignore. Nancy Willis had previously lived in Johnson City, Tennessee, as well as Denver, Colorado, and Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Described by her family as kind and loving, she had dreams and aspirations that were tragically cut short. Her family still longs for answers, hoping that one day the truth will emerge and justice will be served. While Howard Hawk Willis remains on death row, his legacy is one of devastation and unanswered questions. Authorities encourage anyone with information to come forward.